It all began with a bus ride that smelled like Cheetos, feet, and teenage despair. We were heading to Grey Rock Mountain for our school's annual bonding retreat, aka 4 days of character building in the wilderness. Honestly, I think the only character I was gonna build was the one who died first in a horror movie. I was sandwiched between Milo, who had already downed 2 Dramamine and looked like he was seeing into the 4th dimension, and Jessie, who was loudly breaking up with her boyfriend over speakerphone. I just think we need space, Brad. Also, your Fortnite addiction is a red flag. The entire bus was a mess of tangled earbuds, loud chewing, and someone playing Minecraft at full volume on a Chromebook with cracked speakers. The kid behind me kicked my seat rhythmically like he was trying to play a drum solo on my spine. Coach Daniels, our PE teacher/trip chaperone, sat in the front row wearing a bucket hat and chewing gum like it owed him money. He brought a megaphone. That should have been my first red flag. Jessie was live tweeting her breakup. Milo looked pale enough to be cast as a vampire. The window next to me refused to close all the way, so cold mountain air was turning my left side into a popsicle. After 3 hours of winding roads, motion sickness, and Jessie dramatically gasping things like, "I gave you my Netflix password, Brad. How dare you?" we finally arrived at Camp Pine Ridge. It was not a cozy, woodsy, Instagrammable spot. No cute cabins. Just a muddy clearing, a sagging storage shed, and some tents that looked like they'd been rejected from an apocalypse movie set. And I swear to you, the trees looked judgmental. Like, these city kids are gonna cry the first time they see a squirrel. Judgmental. We stepped off the bus into mud. Not regular mud, but ankle-deep, soul-sucking mud that instantly claimed half of Milo's sneaker. He screamed like a dying goat. "Tense up before sundown, or you're sleeping with the raccoons." Coach Daniels shouted through his megaphone, voice already way too enthusiastic for someone who smelled like beef jerky and disappointment. I ended up in tent 7 with Milo, Jessie, still loudly mourning her lost relationship, and Ryan. Ryan was our school's golden boy. Quarterback, straight as, jawline sharp enough to slice cheese. He smelled like pine needles and probably wore cologne called Privilege. Tent 7 was suspiciously sloped and smelled like old socks, damp earth, and desperation. Milo tried to hang up a tiny string of fairy lights and got tangled like a moth in a web. Jessie claimed the only flat spot by throwing her sleeping bag and yelling dibs. And Ryan just started doing push-ups for no reason. "Why are you working out right now?" I asked. "Gotta keep the gains," he replied mid-push-up. "Also, it keeps the fear away." Cool. So Ryan was maybe not okay either. Jules, from tent 5, walked by holding a laminated topographic map like he was prepping for a hike up Everest. "Word of advice," he said. "Watch the East Side Trail. Bears." Then he casually sipped his chamomile tea and wandered off like a woodland cryptid. Jessie, meanwhile, was laying on her sleeping bag scrolling through her camera roll and signed dramatically every 30 seconds. Brad used to send me morning memes. Now I have to wake up and face reality like everyone else. I didn't even bother unrolling my sleeping bag properly. The tent floor was so uneven I was pretty sure I'd wake up with my legs higher than my head. As night fell, Milo lit one citronella candle and proudly declared, "Bug force field activated." The flame promptly went out in the wind. It was gonna be a long weekend. Dinner was suspicious. Coach Daniels rolled out a cooler and announced, "Tonight's feast, campfire stew." What we got was lukewarm beans, a mystery meat chunk that looked like it lost a fight with a raccoon, and soggy crackers that may have once been saltines but were now just damp cardboard. Jules volunteered to make esmeraldas because of course he brought his own marshmallows. Except he dropped the entire bag into the fire and immediately dove after them with 2 sticks and a war cry. "Save the fluff." Someone screamed. Someone else, okay, me, may have laughed a little too hard. Ms. Lark, who had been quiet up till now, stood and flicked on a flashlight under her chin. "All right, campers. Who wants a story?" A few kids groaned. Some cheered. Milo leaned in like this was the premiere of a new Netflix series. "They say," she began, "that Grey Rock Mountain isn't empty. That long ago a hiker disappeared. He was last seen near this camp. Alone. People heard him talking. But he wasn't with anyone. He said." The woods whispered back. A log cracked in the fire. Jessie yelped and clutched my arm. Ryan, still shirtless for some reason, chuckled. "Come on. It's just a story. They say," Ms. Lark continued, "on foggy nights if you listen closely, you can still hear him, calling for help. Or maybe, calling someone in." Perfect timing. The wind howled. The fire flickered. Anyway, lights out in 30. She chirped and walked away like she hadn't just emotionally destroyed all of us. Back in tent 7, Milo whispered. We're gonna die. I can feel it. Ryan pulled out a protein bar and said, if the whispers come, I'm offering them Jesse first. Jesse glared. I hope the mountain takes you. I pretended to laugh, but the way the trees creaked outside, I wasn't totally convinced she was wrong. Around midnight, I woke up. Not because I was cold, not because Milo was snoring like a congested walrus, but because I heard something. Whispering. Soft. Repetitive. Like the sound of someone chanting under their breath. Definitely not the wind. I sat up slowly in my sleeping bag, heart thudding in my chest. Jessie was passed out, hugging her pillow like it was her last source of emotional support. Milo was twitching in his sleep, muttering something about Cheez-Its. But Ryan? His sleeping bag was empty. Panic prickled up my spine. I peeked out of the tent, expecting to see him doing yoga under the moonlight or something equally weird. But no. Just trees. Fog. Silence. And then a flicker of light in the woods. Not like a flashlight. More like a lantern. Old-fashioned. Flickering. Moving. Now logically, this is the part where I should have rolled over, pretended I didn't see it, and gone back to bed. But have you met me? I kicked Milo. MMPH. Go away, he groaned. Dude. Wake up. Ryan's gone. And there's a light in the woods. He sat up, eyes wide. Okay, nope. I'm out. This is how horror movies start. You go out there and next thing we know your severed head is in someone else's tent. Come on, I said, zipping up my hoodie. What if he's hurt or, communing with mountain spirits or something? You're literally describing reasons not to go. But I was already halfway out of the tent. With an annoyed sigh and the drama of someone being forced into a group project with their ex, Milo followed. We crept through the trees, fog curling around our ankles like ghostly cats. The light bobbed ahead, just far enough to keep us chasing it. What is that? Milo whispered. No clue. Probably Ryan trying to prank us. Or maybe it's Brad, come to win Jesse back with the cursed lantern. Milo laughed, a little too loud. Snap. We both froze. A branch. Broken. Behind us. My heart stopped. Milo grabbed my hoodie. You saw that, right? That was real. Yeah, I whispered. Too real. Then something darted behind a tree. Quick. Blurry. Too tall to be a raccoon. Too quiet to be Ryan. We spun around, ready to bolt, and saw someone slumped against a rock up ahead. Ryan. His hoodie was soaked in sweat, his eyes half open, lips moving. The voice, it said bring them back. Milo made a noise somewhere between a shriek and a swear word. I just stood there, heart pounding, unsure if I was more scared of the voice Ryan was talking about or the fact that he looked like he'd been dragged through the woods. And the light? It disappeared. Just gone. No footsteps. No wind. Just silence. Then Ryan looked up, locked eyes with us, and smiled. Not a friendly smile. Something else. Ryan's smile faded as quickly as it came. He blinked confused, then stared at us like he wasn't quite sure who we were. Where am I? He whispered, voice raspy. What happened? Dude, you tell us, I said. We found you whispering to a rock like you were on an episode of Paranormal Survivors. Milo added, and you smiled like the Joker when you saw us. Just saying. Ryan looked around like he was seeing the forest for the first time. There was a voice. It called me out here. I don't remember much else. Just fog. And whispers. Cool, Milo said, already turning back. Awesome. Let's go. Now. We helped Ryan to his feet. He staggered like a baby deer, wincing with every step. His legs were scraped up like he'd run through thorns, and there were these weird, perfect circles of dirt on his hoodie, as if something had gripped him by the shoulders. You followed the light? I asked. I didn't see a light, he said slowly. I heard laughter. Then a voice saying bring them. I thought it meant help. That it needed help. But now? I don't know. We walked back slowly, scanning the trees, every shadow suddenly suspicious. The forest didn't feel empty. It felt watched. Then we saw it. Not the light. A trail. It hadn't been there before. A faint path in the underbrush, winding toward a rocky slope we hadn't noticed on the hike in. That's new, I muttered. Or old, Milo said grimly. Like cursed old. Ghost path old. I should have ignored it. Should have turned around. But something tugged at me, deep in my chest, like a string I didn't know was there got pulled. Ryan nodded toward it. That's where the voice came from. I think it wants us to go there. Absolutely not, Milo snapped. Do you know how horror stories work? We go down that trail, and the next time anyone sees us, it's in a BuzzFeed article titled, Top 10 Missing Teens of 2023. But I took a step forward. I don't know why. Curiosity? Stupidity? Some dumb impulse to solve the mystery? Or maybe. I heard the whisper too. It was faint. Just one word, come. And I did. We followed the path. It shouldn't have been there. No footprints, no flattened grass, but it cut clean through the underbrush like something or someone had made it long ago. And the farther we went, the quieter the woods became. No crickets. No rustling. Just our breath and the crunch of damp leaves underfoot. I'm gonna start recording a goodbye message for my parents, Milo muttered, holding up his phone. Tell them I went out doing what I hated, following cursed whispers in the dark. Ryan said nothing. He walked like he was being pulled by something invisible, his face blank, trance-like. The deeper we went, the thicker the fog got. I kept thinking I saw shapes move just out of sight, like the trees themselves were leaning in. Then we found it. A jagged opening in the side of the rocky slope. Not a natural cave. The entrance was too perfectly shaped, like a door. Moss and vines had nearly hidden it, but the closer we got, the more obvious it became. This is where you wanted to bring us? I asked Ryan. He didn't answer. Just pointed at the opening and said, it's in there. Cool, great, yeah, Milo mumbled. Let's walk into the nightmare hole. What could go wrong? We stepped inside. The air changed instantly. Cold, damp, and thick with the smell of earth and something metallic, like old pennies or blood. Our footsteps echoed unnaturally. It wasn't big, maybe 8 feet wide and a little taller than us, but the walls were covered in strange carvings. Symbols. Circles. Triangles. Eyes. So many eyes. Okay, ancient cave art, I whispered. Totally normal. Then we found the backpack. Half buried in the dirt. Faded. Covered in dust. Ryan bent down and yanked it out, revealing an old school patch. A logo that didn't belong to our school. Milo crouched beside it and opened the zipper. Inside were notebooks, a broken flashlight, and 3 old student IDs. The photos were blurry, but the names were legible. Dates from the late 1980s. Ryan was staring into the shadows at the back of the cave. I remember now, he whispered. It wants stories. It feeds on fear. On memories. What are you talking about? I asked. He turned to me, eyes wide. The kids from the IDs. They disappeared on a trip. Same camp. Same cave. Everyone thought they ran away. But they didn't. They were brought here. Then the whispers came again. Louder this time. More voices. Layers of murmurs surrounding us. Do you hear that? Milo asked, spinning around. Yes, I said. And I think it hears us too. Then the flashlight Milo was holding flickered. And went out. The moment the flashlight died, the cave went pitch black. Not the kind of dark your eyes adjust to. This was heavy, suffocating dark. The kind where you can't tell if your eyes are open or shut. I reached out blindly, grabbing Milo's sleeve. Then came the whispers. Clearer now. More voices. Surrounding us. They see you. Tell us more. Remember. Remember. Milo shrieked and dropped the flashlight. It clattered on the ground uselessly. That's it. We're leaving. Now, he barked, voice cracking. Ryan didn't move. It knows we're here, he whispered, almost reverently. It's been waiting. For years. Decades. All the stories. All the fear. That's what it eats. I grabbed his arm. Okay, well, it's gonna starve tonight because we're not staying. We dragged him out of the cave, the darkness clawing at our backs like it didn't want to let us go. As we stepped back into the foggy night, the cave seemed to breathe, a slow exhale of cold air. Run! Milo yelled, and we bolted. We didn't stop to check the trail. Didn't stop to look behind us. Just ran like demons were at our heels. Branches slapped us. Mud flew. I tripped at one point and rolled, knocking my knee against a rock hard enough to see stars. But the fear overpowered the pain. Eventually, the familiar light of the dying campfire came into view. We stumbled back into the clearing, wheezing, filthy, and absolutely traumatized. Most of the camp was asleep. A couple tents glowed faintly from inside. Everything looked normal, like we hadn't just escaped a sentient horror cave. Then someone stepped out of the shadows. Ms. Lark, still dressed in her flannel and cargo pants, holding a thermos and a can of bear mace. She raised an eyebrow. Out for a midnight jog? Milo collapsed onto the ground, panting. Cave. Voices. Death. I tried to form a sentence. Failed. Ms. Lark just stared at us. Then with a small smirk, she said, "Go to bed." That was it. She didn't ask where we were. Didn't ask why we were covered in scratches and Ryan looked like he'd been hypnotized. Just go to bed. And weirdly, that freaked me out more than anything. We didn't sleep. Not really. We just laid in our sleeping bags, wide-eyed, listening to every creak, rustle, and gust of wind like it might be the cave whispering to us again. Ryan tossed and turned. Milo lay rigid as a plank. I kept my shoes on. When the sun rose, it felt fake. Like a prop. The kind of morning you get after a nightmare where you're not totally sure if it's over or just paused. Everyone else at camp was in high spirits. Coach Daniels was doing jumping jacks and shouting about protein. Jules had made herbal tea out of moss or something. Jessie had apparently forgiven Brad and was back to being her usual dramatic self, posting about the healing power of nature, despite not leaving the tent all morning. But we couldn't shake the feeling. That cave was still there. And those voices? Still whispering in our heads. Ryan was acting weird again. He stared into the fire pit even though it was cold. Mumbled to himself when he thought we weren't listening. After breakfast, Ms. Lark pulled me aside. "You three disappeared for a few hours last night," she said casually. "Find anything interesting?" I hesitated. "You knew." She smiled. Not kindly. Not creepily either. Just like someone who knew way more than she was letting on. "Let's just say you aren't the first kids to go wandering in the dark." That stopped me cold. "What do you mean?" She looked out toward the woods. Grey Rock has history. Stuff the school board doesn't like to talk about. But every few years someone finds the trail. It doesn't always show up. Only when the mountain is hungry. My mouth was dry. "And you still bring kids here?" "I don't make the rules. But I do try to make sure people come back." "So you knew about the cave?" Ms. Lark nodded slowly. "Went there myself when I was 17. Same fog. Same whispers. I left something behind. That's how I got out." "Left what behind?" She didn't answer. Before I could press further, she walked off to yell at someone for climbing a tree with a cereal box on their head. I returned to Milo and Ryan, trying to keep my cool. Milo immediately clocked my expression. "You talked to her, didn't you?" "Yeah," I said. "And she knew everything. She's been there too. Years ago. This whole thing, it's happened before." Ryan looked up slowly. "She left something behind." I remember hearing that too in the cave. One of the voices. It said, "A piece for peace." Like a trade. Like an offering. Milo groaned. "This is getting way too ritual sacrifice-y for me. Can we just go home already?" But deep down, we all knew we weren't done with that cave. Not yet. It was the final day of the trip, but it didn't feel like the end of anything. If anything, it felt like we were leaving something unfinished, like the mountain wasn't done with us yet. The fog had rolled in thick again, wrapping the camp in a damp, ghostly blanket. Most kids were too busy packing up and complaining about missing Wi-Fi to notice, but I felt it. So did Milo. And Ryan? He hadn't spoken since breakfast. We tried to act normal. We helped take down tents, filled trash bags, and pretended like we weren't emotionally scarred by a haunted forest cave that wanted to feed on our memories. Coach Daniels was doing roll call with his usual booming voice, completely oblivious to the literal supernatural crisis brewing just past the tree line. "Remember, folks, if you didn't pack it in, don't leave it here. That includes cursed rocks and haunted regrets." "Ha! Not funny, Coach." As we hiked back to the buses, Milo lagged behind. He looked over his shoulder every few steps. "Do you hear that?" he whispered. I paused. The group was up ahead, voices echoing down the trail. Behind us? Silence. Then a rustle. Not the wind. Not an animal. Something, aware. We shouldn't leave, Ryan said suddenly. His voice was quiet but certain. Not without closing it. Closing what? I asked. The cave. The voices. It's open now. Hungry. If we leave it, it'll find someone else. Milo groaned. Why is it always us? We're not Ghostbusters, man. I brought 2 pairs of socks and a granola bar. That's it. That's all I packed for the apocalypse. I didn't want to go back. But deep down, I knew Ryan was right. That cave, whatever it was awake. And we'd stirred it. I have an idea, I said. We slipped away from the group, hearts racing. Milo cursed the entire way. This is so dumb. This is the dumbest idea we've ever had, and we once tried to microwave Pop-Tarts with the foil still on. We hiked fast, retracing our steps through the fog until we found the hidden trail again. It was even clearer now. Like it wanted us back. We didn't speak much. Just walked. Back to the cave. Back to where it all started. We stood at the cave's mouth again, staring into the dark. It hadn't changed. Still damp. Still silent. Still hungry. I hate this, Milo said. I hate that I'm here. I hate that you two dragged me back. I hate that I have to pee, but I'm too scared to do it alone. I ignored him. I stepped forward. Something buzzed under my skin like static electricity. The air around the entrance was charged. It felt aware. Ryan placed his hand against the rock beside the entrance. It wants something left behind. A piece for piece, remember? We looked at each other, then fumbled through our backpacks. I pulled out my journal. The one I'd been scribbling in all trip. My thoughts, my fears, the sketch of the symbols from the cave. I hesitated, then dropped it just inside. Milo threw in his lighter. That was from my dad, he muttered. It always worked. Even in wind. Guess we're giving up things that mattered, right? Ryan stepped in and set down something small. I leaned closer. A photo. Of a younger Ryan. With a girl. A sister? He didn't explain. We didn't ask. Then we backed away. And waited. For a moment, nothing happened. Just fog and silence. Then the cave exhaled. That same slow, chilling breath. And the entrance darkened. Like something inside turned its back. The pull we'd felt? Gone. It was over. We turned and walked away. No words. No high fives. Just relief. And the weird ache of leaving something behind. We rejoined the group just before the buses left. Ms. Lark gave us a knowing nod. Didn't say a word. On the ride home, I stared out the window, trying to process it all. Milo snored softly. Ryan sat with earbuds in, eyes closed. But something lingered. Not fear. Not anymore. Just memory. I still hear whispers sometimes. When the world's quiet. When I'm alone. But I don't answer back. And I don't go near the woods. Ever again.